Welcome back, America. We're here with another gentleman who I greatly admire, great historian and scholar and author, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, and he's a columnist with the Free Press. That's Niall Ferguson. Niall, I'm very concerned about the nature of things in the West, and especially the United States. I mean, Britain and France, don't get me wrong, Australia, Canada, I see it all, we all see it all, but here in the United States, if the Marxist, Islamist, neo-fascist ideologies really become formidable, and I think they're becoming formidable, then there's really no other place on the face of the earth to push back. What is your attitude? What do you see?
The United States is the key to the future survival of Western civilization. That is why I became an American citizen, Mark, because it all hinges on the United States. And the United States has one big advantage, which is it has an operating system, the Constitution, that is above all a guarantee of liberty. And as long as we don't lose sight of that, then all the bad ideologies that exist and have existed for many years cannot ultimately challenge our liberty.
But what about the fact that these movements, and we even see within the Democrat Party, I would argue, attempt to destroy the barriers that are actually in the Constitution, separation of powers, who gets to do what, open borders to basically change the citizenry. I mean, even Aristotle said that's revolution by immigration, that changes a society and a culture. The failure of assimilation. In other words, we see these various areas of the culture that have been or are being devoured from within. And even, at least a half a dozen of the framers of the Constitution said, look, if the people lose their virtue, we can write whatever we want. This isn't gonna hold up. So I agree with you about the Constitution. But are you concerned about what you're seeing taking place in our schools, in our society, in our media generally?
Yes, Mark, and I've been concerned about it for many years. I do think the consoling thought is that the Constitution has withstood such challenges before. In the late 19th century, a huge surge of immigration brought all kinds of ideologies into the United States: anarchism, communism, socialism. And we worried then, with good reason, that these posed a threat to the Constitution and to American values. It turned out that the United States was very good at absorbing all kinds of foreign elements and creating Americans, whether people came from Eastern Europe or whether they came from all kinds of different parts of the world. The success of the American experiment in the 20th century was that it somehow was able to make them all Americans. Now we face a similar challenge. It's a bigger challenge because the foreign-born share of the population is even larger now than it was in the late 19th century. We had, 2.3 million net migration annually under the Biden-Harris administration. This is an unprecedented challenge. And as you mentioned, Mark, there is a substantial Muslim proportion of that influx, which is new. That was not something that was a feature of the late 19th or early 20th century. What is particularly concerning to me, Mark, is that this has coincided with the spread through our educational system of a radical relativist ideology that is profoundly hostile to the United States, that wants to reframe American history as if it is primarily a history of white supremacy, of enslavement, and so forth. People forget, when they are indoctrinated in this way, that the least original aspect of American history was that there was slavery in some of the southern states. Now, there was slavery everywhere. Slavery was a feature of just about every imperial order. The unique thing about the United States was the creation of a constitution which prioritized liberty above all else. That was new, and we must never lose sight of the power of that innovation. We are approaching 250 years of success as a republic. Not many republics have lasted that long. In fact, virtually none. But as Franklin said, a republic if you can keep it. What encourages me, Mark, is that we are worrying, that you are worried is part of how we keep our liberty. Realizing that these ideologies, you've mentioned them, but I'll say it again, Islamism, communism, neo-fascism. These ideologies are fundamentally hostile to the core American value of liberty. But we're a tolerant people. We allow free speech. The First Amendment says the government can't stop you saying crazy stuff. That's a distinctive feature of our system, and we therefore have to defend the right of people to say things that we find odious. That's the nature of freedom. So I'm not a pessimist because we've withstood these challenges before. You know, I was just reading a great new biography of Bill Buckley, and it reminded me that in the 1930s, anti-Semitism, isolationism, communism, all these bad ideas were flourishing in parts of the United States, were popular in parts of the United States. But they vanished or were driven to the margins in the period of World War II and during the Cold War years. American conservatism got rid of its toxic anti-Semitism, which had been there in the 30s. It got rid of its kind of defeatist isolationism. So we know how to do this as long as we remain true to the core foundational principles of our republic. The toxic ideologies of the past can't win.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.